Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. Let's see who we have on tonight. We have Mia. Thanks so much for coming on. Hope you're well. We have Chatty Rat. Great to see you, Chatty. Ends of the God. Great to have you on. Mr. Rolling 1964. Great to see you. Duke. Great to have you on. Nora Flinger. Great to see you too once again. Killer. Great to have you on moderating. Thanks so much. We have the Lefty Boater. Great to see you. Dibbler D. Great to have you on. Bina. Colin. Ava, great to see you. Alistair, great to have you on. Hope you're well tonight. Bishton, great to see you. Ronnie, Mega Hairy Bomb, great to see you back once again. Hope you're well. We have Roisin, great to see you. Roisin, hope you're well. CGM, great to have you on. We have Lena, great to see you too. Oraman, great to see you once again. Young Ralph, Inconsequential, Cthulhu. Who else have we got? Claire Sweet, great to see you, Claire. We also have Wolfpet, great to see you. We have Aki's Mad, great to see you, Aki's Mad. Hope you're well tonight. Tiny Demolition Lover, great to see you. So many people up in Scotland on tonight. We have also Galadrina, great to see you. Hope you're well. And so many more. Hope everyone is doing fine. Hope you had a great few days. Hope you had a great week. Hope you had a good time since the last time we spoke on Tuesday. And of course, we're going to talk about what's happened with Twitter, Elon Musk, cost of living, and the Asylum disaster that is the disaster of the Conservative Party, who have been in power for 12 years and continually blame everyone else for their own shortcomings. We have a super chat from, let me see, Colin. Thanks so much, Colin. Hope you're well. Thanks for that super chat. Hi, Max. What will you do if you finally get a grown-up Labour government? If we finally get a grown-up Labour government, what will I do? If it's grown up, I'll praise them, but it's also important that we put pressure on them to do, you know what, to rejoin the single market, the customs union, eventually rejoin the EU. Of course, you know, it's a long process, and it's a long, difficult process, and it requires, of course, the EU being on side as well. But, you know, I hope what happens is when the Labour Party get into government, they're going to also reform the electoral system and replace first past the post with proportional representation, which is much more democratic. I hope that's what's going to happen, and I think it's important that we would, you know, I and others who have some sway, have a bit of power, not real power, but soft power in a sense. We have some influence online, that we put pressure on the Labour Party to go ahead with reforming the political system, because it has to change. My only fear is that if Keir Starmer does win a massive majority, he'll sit back and say, well, you know, let's keep first past the post. It delivered us a massive majority. We're comfortable, and we'll put PR on the back burner. I hope that's not what's going to happen. I do hope with a massive majority, or whatever majority he does win, that he will reform it from day one. Because a lot of these things, the longer they're left, the enthusiasm runs out, and it becomes more difficult to convince the parties involved to change. So I do hope that's what's going to happen. Thanks for that super chat. So it'll be, you know, the onus is on us and others to put pressure on the Labour Party to do two main things: change the electoral system to PR, and push to rejoin the single market, at least as the first step to rejoining the EU. And I know there are a lot of problems with that, and it's you know, it'll be a requirement for the UK to rejoin, or to join the EEA, European Economic Area, first, and be a rule taker for a while before it becomes a rule maker. But I want to start with this story. Thanks so much once again. Thanks. Let's start with this story here. Twitter. This is maybe not something that a lot of people think is very important, but I do think it is important. Twitter sees sudden mass layoffs as Elon Musk admits massive drop in revenue. So it seems what happened is Elon Musk fired, as soon as he took over, he fired a load of people, senior executives, and then started laying off other staff as well. And the advertising agencies froze the advertising on Twitter. So, the agencies representing large advertisers like Volkswagen, I think General Electric, others, they decided, we're not going to pull our advertising, but we're going to freeze any advertising that is on the platform, because they don't want it turning into some sort of cesspool, because it would damage their brand. So they don't want to pull out yet, because they're hoping that by freezing their advertising on Twitter, that it will put pressure on Elon Musk to, or at least they're testing the water to see if he's going to change direction and maintain controls. Because if there are no controls and it's a free-for-all, you're going to see a lot of toxic behavior taking place, and this is bad for anyone who wants to advertise on the platform. Stu K, thanks so much for that super chat. We need the PR to keep the cons in their box. Yes. Look, the Conservatives would not win the majorities that we saw, like in 2019, under proportional representation. You would see smaller parties like the Greens, but also, and this is one of the costs. The benefit is you would have smaller, for example, socialist parties on the left, the Green Party picking up more seats because it would be more representative, and you'd have fewer safe seats. Now, it's a double-edged sword. You'd also see the likes of the UKIP party or the Brexit party or something like that winning seats in the House of Commons. This is a price that has, there's good and there's bad that comes with PR. But it's better than what you have at the moment, where you have a party that won less than a majority of the votes, winning an 80-seat majority. So that's not democratic. It's not representative of the population. A majority of parties in the House of Commons supported remaining in the European Union, but Boris Johnson was delivered an 80-seat majority. So if you count up the votes, there's more votes going to parties that want to stay in Europe than want Brexit. But that's the fault of first past the post. So if you had PR, you would have a much more representative democracy in Parliament. Thanks so much for that, Stu. Fire and rehire. I think what's happening, we'll get more into it later on, but it seems to be what's happening in Twitter is that Elon Musk has laid off a load of people, and he's rehiring or hiring people from Tesla. And they're changing the entire the way people work there. But we'll get into that, and there's an interview also I want to show you. Thanks, Max, for the Scottish content. Alistair, thank you so much for that super chat. I wear my pro-Scottish independence badge or on my sleeve. I'm quite open about this. I support Scottish independence, and I think, the only way at the moment for Scotland to rejoin the EU is through independence. And the fact that you have a government in Westminster that doesn't care about the people of Scotland. And it's not just about the independence movement. It's the Tories do not give a crap about people in Scotland. And what they've been doing over the last number of years is trying to remove as many powers as possible from the Scottish Parliament. They're complaining about how Nicola Sturgeon isn't doing enough to help ordinary people, but they're tying her hands. She's trying to do the best. I believe she's trying to do the best she can with a limited budget, and the Tories are trying to limit that budget more and more. And what it means is that she has to cut other services in order to provide basic services. Thanks for that super chat, Alistair. And definitely next year is going to be a big year, of course, for Scottish independence. Stu, thanks so much for that super chat. Are you planning on doing more stuff on homelessness? There are so many things I'd like to do. I'd like to interview people for the channel. For example, some time ago I spoke to a number of people. I had a number of people on, for example, about economics or about Irish Irish unity. There are a number of people. We also have people on the Sunday roast as well. But I'd like to interview some people about other topics, politically related, of course, but more social topics like homelessness, for example. And it's important that, during a cost of living crisis, that issues like this are not forgotten. When it comes to the cost of living crisis, we tend to focus on, of course, people who are struggling to pay their bills, but the entire homeless community is completely forgotten, unfortunately. And more people are becoming homeless because they can't afford these higher rents. They can't. People are losing their homes because they can't afford to pay their mortgages. This year and next year is going to be very difficult, and I think we're going to see more and more people becoming homeless. And it's important that we talk about that. And I'll definitely be doing more stuff on homelessness. And I want to interview people for the channel as well, because it's one thing me talking about it. It's much more important that we have somebody on who has experience of it. Thanks, Stu. So it says here, Twitter temporarily closed its offices and cut workers' access to internal systems on Friday as it began sacking staff without notice, a week after the billionaire Elon Musk took over the social media platform. The firings, which could be seen as many as half of Twitter's 7,500 workers dismissed, came as Musk revealed brands had begun pulling their advertisements, leading to what he said was a massive drop in revenue. So it says here, Audi, General Motors, General Mills and Pfizer were among those who were pausing spending on the service amid growing concern about the direction Twitter will take under Musk. Just 4 days before the US midterm elections, in which hundreds of politicians are running for election, there were claims that Twitter's entire curation team was dismissed, potentially jeopardizing the company's ability to counter misinformation, with one moderator warning of a risk content could become more toxic. Reports indicate that the public relations team organizing for managing communications with journalists and other organizations has seen deep cuts. Other groups have been dissolved, according to members of those departments, including the company's human rights, as well as machine learning and algorithmic ethics teams. Yeah, this is something that Musk seems to be, and just before the midterms. This is interesting, no? Magic, thanks so much for that super chat. Twitter was served with a lawsuit yesterday for violating federal and California law regarding workers' rights. And I heard that in Ireland, I think it's the European Centre for Twitter, they laid off a lot of people as well. And I think there are going to be lawsuits against Twitters in Ireland too. You can't just lay people off like this. I understand that Musk believes in uncontrolled capitalism, but we have laws to protect workers. Not many, not enough, but there are still some. And he can't get away with this. And, this is going to be a nightmare for the company. It seems he's just coming in like a wrecking ball. And I have a feeling he's just going to sell up after a bit and go off and do something else and leave the company in tatters. Thank you, Max from Stu. You're welcome. I really do want to cover more on homelessness. Thanks so much, Magic. Yeah, this is really concerning. It goes on to say here, yesterday was my last day at Twitter. The entire human rights team has been cut from the company. I'm enormously proud of the work that we did to implement the UN guiding principles on business and human rights to protect those at risk in global conflicts and crises, including Ethiopia. This is one of the senior members of staff there. Some staff awoke on Friday to find that they were locked out of their laptops and their access to the company's Gmail and Slack had been revoked. Chris Yoni, who works for Twitter in entertainment partnerships in the UK, tweeted, well, this isn't looking promising. Can't log into emails. Mac won't turn on. But so grateful that this is happening at 3 a.m. Really appreciate the thoughtfulness of the timing front, guys. One employee told The Guardian that the platform could not function as usual on Friday because so many members of staff had been locked out of their employee work accounts. Musk blamed activist groups pressuring advertisers for the drop in revenue, but the trend appears to have started with the advertisers themselves. He claimed nothing had changed with content moderation and accused activists of trying to destroy free speech in America. This is extremely worrying because this idea that it's actually free speech, and I don't think this is what happened. The advertisers got worried that he was going to wreck the system, and then they don't want to be associated with hate speech being spewed all over. It's their right, it's their free speech to advertise on the platform or not. So if they're deciding we don't want to advertise on Twitter, that's nothing to do with free speech. He has a weird idea of what free speech actually is. Free speech is not, we're not allowed to put pressure on companies who advertise on your platform. That's nothing to do with free speech. Free speech is about the government telling you what to do or allowing you to speak your mind. That's what free speech is about. It's nothing to do with rules on platforms, on private platforms. Twitter is a private platform. If Musk deleted everyone's account tomorrow, that's nothing to do with free speech. He could do it. I don't think it'd be a very good idea, and he'd face massive backlash. But that he would be within his power to do that, and there's nothing really anyone could do about it because he pretty much owns the platform. It's like, you don't have free speech in my house, okay? You have free speech on the street because the street is public, but if you come into my house, you don't have free speech. In the same way as if I go into your house, I don't have free speech. People have this weird concept of what free speech is. Free speech is, I can say whatever I like, whenever I like, wherever I like. No, it's not. However, according to internal sources, it appeared the entire curation team across Twitter had been dismissed, although the system lockouts made it difficult to be certain. Twitter's curation team plays a key role in coverage of civil integrity, events such as elections, breaking news and sports, ensuring users have vetted information presented as moments, trends and topic products. It is viewed internally as a key filter against misleading posts. Once again, this is interesting that it's taking place. All of these people fired just before the US midterms. The employee added that flags from partner news organizations about possible misinformation on the platform were going unanswered. So people were saying, this is misinformation, and Twitter were not taking it down because there was nobody to take it down. The platform is likely to become more toxic with less healthy information to counter the disinformation or misinformation narratives, said the employee, who was speaking on condition of anonymity. Twitter's policy on misleading content includes labeling contentious posts or flagging contextualized information next to such posts. The employee said that they had been informed by email that their position was under review. Once again, this is very concerning because Twitter is a massive platform, and it provides good and it provides bad. It's almost like the town square where you can say pretty much what you like, but of course there are consequences. And Elon Musk presented himself as somebody who was going to come in and get rid of all these troll accounts and these bot accounts. And instead he seems to be sacking the staff that are necessary to get rid of these bot accounts and troll accounts. it's going to be a free-for-all. But if he makes it a free-for-all, then advertisers are not going to spend money there, and then the company is going to suffer. This is the problem with allowing billionaires to exist, not to exist in business. Billionaires to exist, full stop. Why do we have billionaires? It's a sign of a really corrupt system, the fact that billionaires exist. Because somebody has accumulated so much wealth, and they have done so because laws exist to allow them to accumulate so much wealth. And look at what they do with it. I've said before, the amount of money he could have, the amount of money he spent buying Twitter. I know it doesn't exist in a real, these are loans that he got from, people put forward money, investment and stuff like this. But, the amount of money that was spent to buy Twitter could have ended hunger and homelessness in America. That's, that amount of money could have ended it. Can you imagine if you were the person who ended homelessness in America? I'm not a big fan of statues, but I think that person would deserve a massive statue in honor of that achievement. Yeah, I'm a billionaire. I spent billions of dollars. I got rid of homelessness and hunger in the US. I think I deserve a medal or a statue. Yes, you do. But no, I'm going to spend it on Twitter. It's like, what's his name? Jeff Bezos. He has these weird hobbies. Imagine if his hobby was like ending poverty. Yeah, I'm not begrudging him the money, but it's, when they think of how could I spend all this money, I could actually spend it on something good and still have money left over that he would never be able to spend in 100 lifetimes. This is the thing. It's not like he's giving away all his money and then he has nothing. He has to live under a bridge. These people, they could give away 90% of what they have and they would still be the richest people in the world. They would still be richer than 99% of the population. They would still have more money than they could ever spend. Never mind the US, Musk could have ended world hunger. Probably, yes. The thing with Musk is he's not interested in more wealth per se. He stopped worrying about the rich over 20 years ago. He's driven by a grand vision, making humanity interplanetary. I think it would be a good idea to fix what we have here first. I understand this idea of going to Mars and going to the moon, and I'm not against that. But I think we should fix, the Earth that we're living at the moment. It's like destroying your home and then moving into the next apartment because you don't want to fix up your own home. I think we should actually try and fix up this planet first before deciding, we're going to move off planet into another one. Because if we move to Mars, what are we going to do there? Trash the place there. Then we'll have to move on to another planet, trash that planet as well. We have a bad habit of doing these things. Even if we watch, Disney movies that are trying to tell us, no, we shouldn't be doing that, and we generally get to the end of the movie going, we should actually treat the environment a bit better, and then we go back to trashing places. He wasted billions establishing a company in Las Vegas to dig underground tunnels, which were supposed to allow cars on busy streets to descend via elevators into tunnels. That didn't happen. Yeah, and there was also the other one, the Hyperloop, which was a bit of vaporware. And I used to be a fan of him. I used to be a fan of his. I used to think he was really cool. I thought this is a new visionary. This is and I think what he did with Tesla was wonderful. He forced the main car industry, car producers, to start making electric cars. I don't think they would have pushed as much as they are now. Other car companies have overtaken Tesla, but I think setting up Tesla was a great idea, and it really pushed forward the electric car, which is of course the way we have to go. The best thing Musk did was PayPal. Yeah, and then there was also PayPal. So this is what I mean is, like, he used to be really cool. What the hell happened? No, Max. If we move to Mars, we will be hunting those Martians. Fed up with waiting. Let's build a new form of democracy. That's what we need. Brexiteers should go to Mars. They want to leave all Earth organizations. Yes. Stop the plow. We want off. Here was a member of Twitter staff who was interviewed by Sky News.
Now is Simon Balmain. He's a Twitter employee, but has found himself locked out of his work laptop today. Hello to you, Simon. Thanks for joining us. Tell us what's happened in the last 24 hours or so to you and to your colleagues.
Sure. So we sort of started hearing strong rumors about layoffs a few days ago, which I'm sure everybody heard about because it leaked quite quickly to the press. Late last night, we all received an email saying, there is going to be a large reduction in headcount. And the email stated that if we would be laid off, we'd hear to our personal email, and if not, to our work email. And it was about an hour after that, and this is in the early hours of the morning UK, like 2 a.m., that I noticed my work laptop was remotely wiped, and my email access and Slack access were both revoked. And then got in touch with a few colleagues, and it seems a lot of people were seeing the same thing. So that's what happened.
And how do you feel, Simon? Obviously, you still haven't received official word as to whether you're going to lose your job or not. How are you feeling?
Yeah, a bit of a weird mix of emotions. I've really enjoyed working at Twitter. It's been incredible, but this acquisition has been unprecedented in about a million different ways, as everybody's been following along with over the last few months. And every day is something new, and a new corner is turned, and we have all been trying to deal with it as best we can. I'm generally a pretty zen, pretty optimistic person, so I'm pretty okay actually, regardless of what happens. It's been sad. I think there's a lot of interesting projects that have been in the works at Twitter to different degrees prior to this acquisition. My biggest thing is, like, if a lot of those projects now sort of the development gets stopped and they don't.
I just want to reply to something that No DLC said. Musk isn't doing this all by himself. Staff are helping him. Yes, there was an article. I think it was. I'm not sure where. Maybe I saw it on Twitter itself, but there was an article that said how Musk had brought in a lot of acolytes, and a lot of people were so afraid of losing their job that they started kissing his arse, and they were posting how he's doing a great job and he's a wonderful guy and all of this, in order just to hold on to their jobs. And there's been a sort of ruthless reaction to this, where managers who were brought in are treating the staff like crap and expecting whoever wants to hold on to their job to work night and day to cover for those who have been laid off. So, they've sacked, it seems, a lot of people, and whoever remains is either a sycophant for Elon Musk, or it's somebody who's desperately holding on to their job and working all hours God sends in order to hold on to that job.
Really see a wide release in favor of new things, then that's understandable, but it's also a real shame because there was stuff with real potential going on.
There are suggestions that as many as half the 7,000 strong workforce could lose their jobs later today. And of course, there's been a lot of uncertainty hanging over Twitter lately, hasn't there, with the purchase by Elon Musk, not knowing whether it would happen or not. And then, of course, he's made some rather bold statements in terms of what he wants to do with the company since taking over. What is morale like among the workforce?
Yeah, it's been kind of all over the place. It's been a roller coaster ever since April, when he sort of first made the offer, then throughout the summer with this, lawsuit and, changing his mind. And then, it looked at the last minute, when the court case was set to happen, he obviously changed his mind back and wanted to do the deal and has now done the deal. So it really has been difficult for people to really stay focused, not knowing what's going to happen. I mean, the communication throughout was very much always along the lines of, we'll tell you when we know more. And then that was just an ongoing thing, sort of week after week, month after month. I personally try to keep my head down and focus on the work, but it's definitely been incredibly distracting over the last few months, for sure.
Obviously, Elon Musk did pay an enormous amount of money for Twitter, $44 billion. He is now trying to make the company profitable. Were job cuts expected?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be naive to not have seen that coming, given everything that was reported about the economics of the deal and the fact that he was trying to get out of it for so long, and then was sort of had to do it, whether that was completely of his own volition or whether because he felt the outcome of the court case would not be in his favor. Whatever reasons those may be, the deal was completed and at the original price. And I think layoffs were inevitable to a degree. I think to some degree, layoffs were probably inevitable regardless, even if the deal hadn't happened. I'm not sure what the final amount would be. It probably would have been lower if this acquisition hadn't happened, because it's put a lot on the balance sheet of him and the company. So yeah, it's just a weird one.
Well, we do appreciate you.
And now he has to look for another job. Anyway, let's move on. Sticking with going on to the asylum system failings from the Conservative Party and the Conservative government. It says here, Home Office contractors were removed for trying to sell drugs at Manston Asylum Centre. Now, I don't know if this involves Therese Coffey trying to sell people antibiotics or not, but it says here, Home Office contractors have been disciplined after trying to sell illegal drugs to asylum seekers at the Crisis Hit Processing Centre at Manston in Kent. It is understood the issue came to light after asylum seekers at the site in Ramsgate complained that security staff were trying to sell them cannabis. Security guards also raised concerns that their colleagues were smoking the drug while on duty. Wow. They're trying to... The Tories have been saying this is a perfectly run facility. It's top class. And these... and it's... What's interesting is it's contractors. Now, who are these contractors? Who do they work for? And why did this contracting company win the contract to run these services? And what is is there a connection between the contracting company and, I don't know, the Home Secretary or someone at the Home Office or a Tory MP in the area? I don't know. The Home Office statement said, the Home Office expects the highest standards of professionalism from all those contracted to manage the detention estate. The individuals involved in this incident were swiftly removed from the site, and we will continue to work to take robust action against those whose behaviour falls beneath those high standards. Labour said the latest revelation about the troubled site was evidence that the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, has completely lost control of the asylum system. This is really interesting from a political point of view, how the Labour Party are attacking the Conservatives over the issue of asylum. This would be unheard of even 4 or 5 years ago. You have the Labour Party attacking the Conservatives on the issue of asylum. Normally it's the other way around, where the Labour Party are trying to defend their position on asylum, where they're, and the Conservatives will always use they want open borders and stuff like this. This is an absolute disaster. It's on it's happening on Tory watch, and it's embarrassing for the government, and it's it's causing them to lose support from within their base, because people are the massive problem for the Tories is there are decent people who are looking at this and saying this is unacceptable. And then there are the racists and bigots who are saying, why are these people being sent into hotels? Why aren't these people being sent back to France? Because the Tories, especially the far-right Tories, have been trying to use this issue as a bargaining chip with the electorate. They've been trying to use it as a cudgel, as a bit like when Boris Johnson was using the vaccine rollout or get Brexit done. They said, okay, we can use this issue of immigration, asylum, to win over the racists and bigots. But it's backfiring, because the racists and bigots are starting to be angry with the Conservative Party, not because of the treatment of refugees and asylum seekers, but they want them to be treated worse. They want them sent back. They don't want these people being sent to hotels. But because the Conservatives haven't invested the resources necessary to process claims and move people into refugee status and eventually allow people to stay in the country to live and to work, because they haven't invested in that, you're seeing these problems. You're seeing these backlogs. And the backlogs, if you're having people coming in, you can't force them. You can't have 5,000 people in, or close to 5,000 people in a centre designed for 1,000. You have to put them somewhere. So this is why hotels are being booked out. And then what happens is you have the likes of Nigel Farage going to these hotels and interviewing, ex-staff or interviewing people who used to stay at the hotel, and, feeding into this anger that's been directed at the asylum seekers and the government to a certain extent. Anyway, Braverman is facing a legal challenge over the conditions at Manston, which is housing thousands of people seeking refuge in the UK. On Thursday, the Home Secretary flew into Manston in a Chinook helicopter. Yeah, because, why not? Don't go by car. It's more stylish to come in with a helicopter, a military helicopter. Maybe they had a uniform made specially for her to visit the centre for the first time. The Home Office, can you imagine if this was the Labour Party? If the Labour Party had been doing something like this, the Tories would be up in arms over it. The Home Office said more than 1,200 people had been moved off-site within the past 4 days. At one point, 4,100 people, including children and pregnant women, were living in a space designed for 1,600. The Guardian has revealed various infectious conditions on the site, such as diphtheria, scabies, and MRSA. Chairs of several parliamentary select committees, including the Home Affairs Committee, wrote to the Home Secretary on Wednesday, raising concerns about conditions on the Manston site. These include lack of adequate safeguards for children on the site and a failure to identify which adults on the site should be designated adults at risk because of certain vulnerabilities. Stephen Kinnock, the Shadow Immigration Minister, condemned the revelations. The Home Secretary has completely lost control of the asylum system, which has been broken for 12 years of Tory neglect, and as the Prime Minister has been forced to admit, isn't processing claims fast enough. Once again, this is something that is political dynamite for the Labour Party, because this is normally an issue where the Conservatives are more trusted, and the Labour Party are able to use this against the Tories. Now, I'm not advocating for them to use women and children as some sort of tool, but it's clearly a case that you're driving a wedge between the party and their base, because the base are looking at this going, we're not happy. These people shouldn't be in the country in the first place. Why aren't we sending them back to France? Why aren't we turning back the boats? There was a guy calling LBC who was talking about having putting sharks in the sea. He was talking about taking people, so blocking these boats. Now, first of all, it's very difficult to block. But the channel isn't that big, but it is also big. it's practically impossible to have these, to stop them halfway through halfway over the channel, because you can't identify where they are. Unless you have planes flying all the time, monitoring constantly. There's a huge cost there. And, these are the people advocating for this don't want tax rises. They want a small government. So they want a small government unless it's controlling immigration, it seems. Then they want the entire Royal Navy out there. And the Navy don't want to be doing this because this, would put them in a very difficult position, potentially breaking international law. And as I said before, and I said this on a number of occasions, if you're a member of the Royal Navy and you're being told, go out there and block these boats, when eventually there's an inquiry and there are court cases, you will be the one in the dock, not Priti Patel or not Suella Braverman. You will be the one facing a potential prison sentence, not the Home Secretary. Even if you say I was following orders, it won't wash. And that's why a lot of the people in the military, also for humanitarian reasons, but many don't want to be. Why should I be breaking the law for these people? Many of them won't even be around this time next week. Magic, thanks so much for that super chat. Apparently, Infracom is an unsuitable location for use as an asylum accommodation, according to the local council, because the Home Office hired a hotel. Like, a hotel is for guests, okay? You can't just throw people into a hotel and expect, if there are vulnerable people, they need to be monitored. They need perhaps supervision. And if you put them in a hotel, they don't have that. So it's an absolute disaster. Like, you have, on one side, you have people complaining about putting them in hotels because it costs money. But in reality, it's a big problem putting people in a hotel who are extremely vulnerable. They need to be monitored. They can't be isolated. It's going to make the situation worse. And all because the Tories don't want to spend money, because if they're seen spending money, it's going to piss off the racists and bigots. Thanks, Magic. It's... Oh, God. It goes on to say, Claire Mosley, the founder of the charity Care for Calais, which works with asylum seekers both in northern France and in the UK, said the Home Office pays outsourced contractors vast amounts of money to take care of asylum seekers, but this does not remove their responsibility. This is a huge failure of oversight and care, and the ultimate responsibility rests with Suella Braverman, who needs to understand that she has a responsibility on behalf of our nation for the care of these incredibly vulnerable people. Home Office sources said the Home Office takes the safety and welfare of detained persons in its care extremely seriously. Whistleblowing procedures are in place to enable service providers and the Home Office staff to safely and securely report any concerns, including concerns of misconduct and inappropriate behaviours. Contractors selling drugs to people. And then there was this story. Once again, another failure of Suella Braverman's department. This reminds me of something that I remember reading some years ago in the United States. Hungry and confused asylum seekers from war-torn East Africa have been found sleeping rough in central London after the Home Office removed scores of people from the Manston Immigration Processing Centre in Kent without offering replacement shelter. So you can imagine whoever was responsible for this. Get a bus, okay, the bus centre, and drop them off there. They'll find something. My God, like, obviously what the hell happened here? At least 18 asylum seekers are now believed to have slept on the streets this week after after at least 2 buses left them at Victoria Station, forcing 3 charities and 2 councils to provide emergency help. And there is is this by design? Is this honestly by design, where they say, send the buses to London, drop the people off, and what do we do then? Don't worry, the charities will pick them up. Out of sight and out of mind. It's no longer our problem. It doesn't really work like that, because these people have to be eventually returned to be processed. Several of the highly vulnerable people from Ethiopia, Eritrea, Egypt and Kuwait with no family or friends in the UK spent 2 nights outdoors. They are now being helped by the charity Crisis, whose chief executive Matt Downey accused the Home Office of causing sheer confusion. They were among asylum seekers, including some from Afghanistan and Syria, bussed from Kent to London after the Home Secretary Suella Braverman ordered people to be moved from after outrage over conditions including cold, overcrowding and disease. I honestly think this is an attempt to just offload responsibility onto charities. You know, the Tories have been doing it for 12 years, okay? People can't eat. They're not earning enough money to feed their families. Well, there are also food banks, so the food bank can pick up the slack. This is, I would not be surprised if this was by design. This was not an accident, not some misplacing of paperwork. This was actually dump the people in the centre of London, and notice they dumped them in London, not in some little village in the, near Kent. Why London? Well, they know that if they were in the centre of London, there'd be charities there that would deal with the problem, as they see it. It's embarrassing, but you got a few hundred people maybe out of the place. On Friday, amid growing pressure on Braverman to get a grip on the crisis at Manston, the Home Office Minister Chris Philip was accused of callous complacency by the Liberal Democrats after he said, if people choose to enter the country illegally and unnecessarily, it's a bit of a cheek to then start complaining about the conditions. The overcrowded centre, which houses more than 4,000 people, uses marquees for sleeping accommodation, and there have been reports of outbreaks of diphtheria and COVID. Yay, wonderful. So, I thought the Conservatives were supposed to be compassionate, no? It's disgusting behaviour. Let me read some of your comments, guys, because I've been talking a lot. Braverman got her trip in a helicopter, and she can say that she visited Manston, but she hid from the press. Yeah, what is it with her hiding from the press constantly over the night? Like, she's taken over as Home Secretary, and she hasn't done any real interviews, as far as I know. Tories have less spine than jellyfish. If you're a private sector contractor or the government, the charities are going to pick up the slack. Why wouldn't you let them? If you don't care, that is, which the government doesn't. Yes, Thomas, I agree. Look at what they've been doing. Food banks are the perfect example of this. In 2007, 2008, there were about a dozen, maybe a maximum a dozen food banks. Now there are thousands of them. There are more food banks than there are McDonald's restaurants. And they're constantly growing. And of course, many of them are struggling because of the cost of living crisis, because they also have bills to pay. But it's part and parcel of what the Tories, it's their way of thinking. Look, what we do is we cut public services, we cut benefits, or we don't raise them in line with inflation. And what happens is people get desperate. Well, they just go to the food bank. See, they rely on charity. It's a sort of Jacob Rees-Mogg mentality as well. Charity is wonderful. It's uplifting. We have all these millionaires, lefty millionaires. Well, let the lefty millionaires look after the poor. Why should we spend taxpayer money on it? We should be spending taxpayer money on contracts for our friends and donors. With Tories, cruelty is the point. allegedly a deterrent. That's probably correct. That's correct, Kella. Charities are a failure of government responsibility. 100. It's my line. I agree 100% with that. This charities should not exist. If charities exist, it's because the government has failed. Charity is great if you're not relying on it. Yes. Rishi is Mrs. Thatcher without the hat and the nice handbag. Number 3, thanks so much for that super chat. We need our own major media outlet. Can we work out a way to do that? Who would fund it? I think there's a growing response. Thanks so much, number 3. I think there's a growing response to the likes of the BBC and the other mainstream outlets. For example, when it comes to Brexit, they're afraid to talk about it. They don't want to piss off politicians because they want to have them back. They don't want to be seen as being biased against, for example, Brexit, or being biased towards the Labour Party or something like that. But we need to call these people out. We need to expose the lies. Yeah, and it has to be presented to more and more people, because I think especially the younger generation, but also, and I see it on the channel as well, there's a growing older generation as well who are switching from, mainstream TV to YouTube, maybe even TikTok as well. I'm not on TikTok, but moving to YouTube because they see it as somewhere where they can they get to hear from people who agree with them. And I don't mean that as an echo chamber, but it's, they're angry about what's happening, but they don't hear people in the mainstream media angry about it. But they find, people who are on the same wavelength on the likes of YouTube. I don't know how we could organize some sort of unique platform for this, because I think a problem is many people have different opinions and it can be difficult to bring them all together. I think generally people want to get the Tories out and people want to have a better, more transparent society. That could be something to rally behind, certainly. Thanks for that super chat. Will definitely be something we should definitely consider and work towards. Guys, before we continue, we have our comedy moment, a little break for just a few minutes. I hope you enjoyed this, just to take away some of the bitterness from the seriousness of this discussion. But I hope you enjoyed this funny video. I'm sure you will.
Good day. I'm just sitting in Matt Hancock's office overseeing everything while he's away on his invasion of Australia. I think that's what we call travel now. Matt's agreed to take part in I'm a Celebrity, which he says is to help his constituency of West Suffolk by staying away from them for a while. He's also doing it to help champion the causes that he believes in, like dyslexia, which he suffers from. In fact, he himself made a dyslexic error when he stopped off at Austria instead of Australia. Poor thing, he was eventually discovered in a beer cellar eating a massive wiener. But, it doesn't matter. It'll all help him prepare for the jungle trials of eating kangaroo balls, which he's used to. He ballsed up so much at home with the protection of care homes and PPE, he'll be perfectly at home in the bush. Anyway, back to work now. I've tidied up his desk, filed away his copies of Turtleneck Monthly, and just waiting for things to come in. You never know, this might really kick off his celebrity career. And look what it did for Nadine, who we always think of whenever we hear the words ostrich anus.
Well said, Matilda. Just to touch on this, because it's absolutely insane and a little bit anger-inducing as well. Matt Hancock could be set for life after I'm a Celebrity, says ex-MP. Matt Hancock could be set for life financially after his appearance on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, according to the ex-MP and former reality show contest Lambit Opik, who suggested it may turn out to be his blue Peter Andre moment though the move would probably signal an end to his political career. So there's a silver lining here. It will be the end of Matt Hancock's political career, but it will be the beginning of his celebrity career. On Wednesday, Hancock announced he would appear on the ITV reality show, which has led him to losing the Conservative whip and criticism across the newspaper front pages, with the Mirror labelling him the man with no shame. Wouldn't it be funny if he lost the whip and then he was actually ITV or whoever is in charge decided actually we're gonna cancel the show. OPEC said that the move could be shrewder than people give Hancock credit for, and speculated that it had been well coordinated by a good agent, including his book publication, and clearly sorted out messaging. Most people never look back after being in the jungle. There's a speaker circuit, a superficial celebrity circuit, all there for you after. My God, it's a real game changer for Hancock if he plays it right. It's already made him a celebrity, but it will give him a whole new direction for the rest of his life. OPEC said Hancock's trajectory might resemble that of Andres, whose flagging career received a boost by appearing on the show in 2004, adding that he personally continued to benefit from his 2010 appearance. Hancock has nothing to lose, OPEC said, since the kissing scandal that led to his resignation as health secretary. He started such a low base in the public eye that the only way is up. Hancock was also overlooked for a top ministerial job by the new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. I think he's had enough of Parliament. But have people had enough of Matt Hancock? I really don't understand. What do people see in Matt Hancock? Would people be really interested in watching this? I don't understand it. He'd happily go on the show for £400,000. Hell, I could do with an extra £500 at the moment to pay my rent. Is the jungle what? That'd be funny if it was. What do people see in this TV show really? I don't know. I've never actually saw it. A lot of these things are very curated. It's 90% of I believe is fake anyway. You have these celebrities put in these so-called difficult situations or dangerous situations, when in reality there's a camera crew with them constantly, and a lot of it is there for show. So throw a spider at them and see how they react. It's and then we can make a clip of it that will convince more people to watch the show. 400,000 isn't set for life, but Hancock is already a millionaire. Yeah, I think this is like a springboard into doing other stuff. So yeah, he got £400,000 for this, and then he will be doing other, like a speaking tour. Why? He'll be probably opening nightclubs and stuff like that as well. Will he be, making movies as well? It's disgusting. Like, considering he's responsible, he was health secretary when the pandemic started, and like Boris Johnson, he didn't take it seriously at the beginning. It was all a bit of a joke, and people died. And this is, it's a bit dark. It's a bit bleak, all of this, because you're seeing somebody who was responsible for the deaths of thousands of people, and he's getting some sort of reward for it. Because imagine if he wasn't health secretary, if he had been, transport secretary or something at the time, he wouldn't be doing this show now. He would be a footnote. Stop, Max. The suggestions of what he could do next is making us sick. No, okay, we'll move on from Matt Hancock. Okay, moving on to more serious things. All capital spending under review ahead of Jeremy Hunt's, I was about to say something else, Jeremy Hunt's autumn statement. All capital spending is under review before Jeremy Hunt's autumn statement, with a view of making billions in savings on infrastructure projects, with the senior cabinet minister hinting a key Northern Rail line could be scaled back. So levelling up is dead. Number 10 denied reports on Friday that plans for the new Sizewell C nuclear power plant could be scrapped, but big energy projects, along with with every other major infrastructure plans such as HS2 and Northern Powerhouse Rail, will have costs reviewed. Well, reviewed is code word, of course, for cut. The biggest ticket item under threat appears to be the Northern Rail scheme, which was a manifesto pledge in the 2019 election. This is, once again, if the Tories won a massive majority on a particular manifesto, and now they're going back on that manifesto, then there should be a general election. How can someone say, no, you don't need a general election? The manifesto has been thrown in the bin, the one that won us an 80-seat majority. We've lied about it. No, you need to have another election. Grant Shapps told the BBC the line itself can deliver a 33-minute journey from Manchester to Leeds, quadruple nearly the capacity of that line, and do so without having to wait an extra 20 years beyond the delivery of what the upgrade can do. There wasn't really much point in going and blasting new tunnels through the Pennines. It's not true to say that we're not delivering on what we said we would do on levelling up the north. Hunt is looking at cuts to the £100 billion plus capital spending budget as he seeks to fill an approximate £50 billion black hole in the public finances in the fiscal event on the 17th of November. So in just over a week. Not 2 weeks. We are looking at all the capital spending as part of the autumn statement, one Whitehall source said. Asked last week about HS2, which is over budget, could also be subject to cuts, Michael Gove, the Levelling Up Secretary, said, I'm sure everything will be reviewed. It's probably the only time Michael Gove has actually told the truth. Everything will be reviewed. Yes, means many things will be cut. The Chancellor is also examining the case for a rise in capital gains and dividend tax, including the headline rate and allowances, which was first reported by the Telegraph. This is actually going to piss off some of their donors and their voters, especially the richer ones. They're not going to be too happy with a dividend tax and a rise in capital gains. I heard Nick Ferrari complaining about this, describing this as socialism. But socialism is not cutting public spending. Nevertheless, the Institute for Government has said that approaches such as cutting capital spending, preventative services or low-profile services could be counterproductive, reducing productivity and increasing pressure on other services, noting that maintenance backlogs costs for schools, the NHS, courts and prisons already stand at $23.7 billion. So you're going to have rot. Because I don't mean this literally. Well, it can almost mean literally. You have public services like the NHS, schools, courts, prisons that need funding to be upgraded. Maintenance, basic maintenance needs to be done. This is going to be cut. So what are you going to have? You're going to have bigger costs later down the road. So, for example, it's like if you have a car and you say, look, I'm going to save money on maintenance. See, I'm saving lots of money. I'm not going to maintain the car. Then what's going to happen? About a year from now, or 2 years from now, or maybe even less than that, the car will just stop. And it'll cost a lot more money to replace it. And it's the same if you apply this for hospitals or prisons or courts or whatever. If you don't do the maintenance, you're going to spend a lot more money later on. They don't seem to I understand there's a recession, but during a recession you should be actually spending money, not cutting back. This is austerity 2.0. The approach of cutting back on capital spending and cancelling tax cuts is the opposite of what the Liz Truss's government, which is focused on growth at all costs. Remember those days? The Tory MP John Redwood, one of the backers of her economic programme, said on Friday, "I read the government is thinking of cutting investment. It should not cut projects to produce more energy, as we have a very we are very short of domestic supply." It's not about the... Okay. John Redwood thinks that there's a shortage of energy. No, it's not about a shortage. It's about the price that's been charged on the wholesale market. It should cut the massive expensive HS2, which will have plenty of rail capacity for post-COVID demand. That's not the case. There's less usage because there isn't enough trains. Like, if you have more trains, people are going to use them. If you have fewer trains, people are not going to use them, and people are going to rely on their cars. And then the Tories will turn, like John Redwood will turn around and say, "Oh, well, we don't need trains because nobody's using them." Labour cautioned the government against reneging on the party's promises to the north of England when it comes to spending on rail projects. Louise Howe, I can't remember to pronounce her name, the Shadow Transport Secretary, accused the government of having crashed the economy and then making the north pay for the fallout. A lost decade of broken Tory promises has left the north with second-rate infrastructure, the rail services in crisis, holding the economy back, she said. And it's true. If you want to level up, you need to invest in the north. I always believed that this investing in the north was just a scam. The Tories were never really behind it. And now we're seeing how they're not really behind it at all. Max, that's roofs going to fall on the... Max, there's roofs that are going to fall on the hospitals. Yes, there were a number of stories a few weeks ago about a number of hospitals who had to move patients out because the roofs were going to collapse. And of course, when it comes to the NHS, their budget is pretty much frozen. They need to do maintenance, but they need to take it out of their current budget. So if you're the administrator of a hospital and your budget is limited, your budget is frozen, what are you going to do? You're going to spend it on care, or are you going to spend it on maintenance? Because you know that if you don't spend it on maintenance, you're going to have to spend more sometime in the future. Thanks so much, Alistair. Number 3, thank you so much for that super chat as well. What an utterly useless, unworkable system. The Tories just don't care. That's, they continue, or maybe they've just given up on this, but they used to paint themselves as the party of sound government, risk-free, stable, strong and stable. But it's just chaos now. It's indifference. It's neglect. The party of neglect. That's you could apply this to everything. Lazy and neglectful. That's what they are. Lazy when it comes to actually doing any work. Like, for example, the trade deals. It was just lazy. And neglect when it comes to public services. And look at what's happening with the asylum seekers. Neglect. Just throw as many in as possible, even if it's overflowing, and just, if they complain, just ignore them. Thanks, number 3. Stu, thanks so much once again. John Redwood doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what he's talking about anytime. It's not even just now. He never knows what he's talking about. And who the hell votes for these people? John Redwood is a charlatan. He's constantly talking about how we need to, drill more for more oil. We need to, we need to reopen the coal mines. This is a guy who campaigned for Brexit. He's talking about we need to grow our own food. We need to be independent. The UK is not in a position to be independent. But at the same time, he doesn't want to spend the money to be independent. Like, the UK, when it comes to energy, it should be moving to renewable energy, where it could be potentially independent. I haven't looked at the figures, but I imagine, look at what's happening in Scotland. If the UK as a whole moved to renewable energy, it could perhaps become independent. But the problem is a lot of the energy, a lot of the energy usage is based on gas. So you need to shift away from that. But people like John Redwood don't want to do that. Thanks so much, Stu. Anyway, let's move on. So it's once again related to the budget. This is from a couple of days ago, but it's still relevant. Excuse me.
In the 6 weeks since the Bank of England last met to set interest rates, there have been 2 prime ministers, 2 chancellors and a crisis of confidence in the UK economy. The bank's response, the biggest single interest rate increase since way back in 1989, a 0.75 percentage point increase, taking rates to 3%, their highest since the 2008 financial crisis, and it says rates will rise further, though perhaps not as high as the current peak the market expects of close to 5%. It's acted because inflation is running at more than 10%. It could peak at 11%. Again, the highest since way back in the 1980s, and a product of high energy prices exacerbated by the war in Ukraine. The bank's worry is that this imported inflation could become embedded in the UK economy as wages rise to keep up. So by increasing rates, the bank is trying to squeeze demand and bring inflation down. Now, what does it mean for mortgage holders?
Well, before we get to mortgage holders, what is the Bank of England doing to bring down... What is the Bank of England want to manufacture a recession? That's what they want to do. They want a recession because a recession will result in businesses closing and people being laid off. What will this do? It will drive down wages. So they believe that wage inflation is going to be a problem. It's not a problem now. They understand that it's not a problem now, but they believe it will be a problem in the future. So in order to stop wage inflation from taking place, they want a recession. Remember, the Bank of England don't care about ordinary people. It's not their business. It's not their scope. Their idea, their entire focus is on inflation of 2%. So they want to bring inflation down to 2%. Because if the governor can't do that, he will be replaced. Okay? So the politicians select the governor of the Bank of England. And if they don't believe he's doing enough of a job, then they'll get rid of him. So he wants to bring down inflation to 2%. How can he do that? Well, by increasing interest rates, this will make it more difficult for businesses to get access to cash. And these businesses will end up not being able to pay their bills, and they'll end up closing. When these businesses close, they'll lay off staff. This will result in increased unemployment. And then if there is unemployment, it means that it's more difficult for workers to charge more for their labor, because there's a glut of people in the market. Now, I think one caveat here is that you'll have... I don't know if this is going to deal with the shortage of workers. I don't think it is going to deal with the shortage of skilled workers that have been as a result of Brexit. Because if we look at some of the sectors, for example, agriculture, there are people who could do the jobs, but it's not feasible for them to do the jobs because the pay is low, starting out, and it's difficult for many people to do the jobs because of the location. So you're going to have unemployment in the cities, but the farms need the workers, and they're in the countryside, and they're far from the cities. So either you have people moving there and living on the site, or you have people commuting, but then it's no longer feasible because you spend, a significant amount of your income on transport. You're not going to do that. So I don't think a recession is going to help certainly, for example, the agricultural industry, which I think is probably going down the toilet anyway because of a number of reasons, including Brexit. But it's once again, I think there's an attempt to manufacture a recession which will allow the Bank of England to bring down inflation to 2%.
Well, today's increase alone will have added £700 a year to repayments on a £100,000 tracker mortgage, and fixed rates have soared. Look at this. The current average rates for 2- and 5-year fixed mortgages, they're both at more than 6%. A huge increase in cost imposed in just the last few weeks. And the bank's clear responsibility for a chunk of that extra cost lies with Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng. This chart shows the yield on 10-year UK gilts. They're a proxy, a measure for government borrowing. The blue area shows the impact of what the bank says are international factors shared across the world. The red is what it calls the UK premium. That's an additional cost of more than 2% since August, imposed on homeowners, businesses and government, made worse by the mini-budget in...
This mini-budget, why is Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng not in jail? Why have they not been kicked out of the party? Look at what they have done. Completely unnecessary. You know, the people who gave them advice as well, the likes of the IEA and was it Policy Institute or something like that. Some of these some of these I don't remember. Maybe it was not the Policy Institute. I don't remember the name of one of the other think tanks. But these think tanks that were advising Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng to do this. Look at what Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss have done to the UK economy, have done to people who are now having to pay more, hundreds of pounds more in their mortgages. And why are these people not in prison? You know, what really pisses me off is that, you know, the Daily Mail and the Express and these right-wing newspapers and right-wing commentators will talk about look at how much money is being thrown down the toilet on hotel bills for asylum seekers, when ordinary people are paying more. Now, you may say, well, I don't have a mortgage, I'm not affected by this. Well, if you don't have a mortgage, you're more likely to be renting. And if mortgage prices, if the cost of mortgages are going up, your landlord is going to put up the rent in 90% of cases. So this is affecting everyone. And Liz Truss is still sitting in her seat, and Kwasi Kwarteng is still sitting in his seat in the House of Commons. Why? Honestly, you know, this is something that the Labour Party... Just put this up. Ask, why are these people still members of Parliament? Look at what they've done. This is worse than anything, in a sense. This is potentially worse than Brexit.
September. As for what happens next, that's the bleakest bit of the bank's outlook. It's forecasting a recession lasting up to 2 years. This shows its projections for GDP, the size of the economy, and it's getting smaller. The pink line, the higher line here, is the path of a recession if rates remained at 3%. We know they'll go higher. The darker line is if they increase in line with market expectations. The reality is it'll be somewhere in here, in between, but it still means a recession lasting deep into 2024 and only slow recovery after that, with unemployment peaking at around 6.5%. And at no point does the bank's forecast say the economy will return to pre-COVID size. The UK, it seems, will pay a high price for the pandemic, for war in Europe, and political turbulence at home.
And Brexit. Nodi Alsi says, this isn't worse than Brexit. It is Brexit. Very valid point. It is Brexit. This is the Brexit dividend. You know, the Bank of England said, and it was Mark Carney who said it today, when he was speaking to the BBC, we told people about this. One of the reasons that the pound is so weak, which is driving up the cost of imports, which the UK relies heavily on, is because of Brexit. The pound has never recovered to pre-Brexit levels, meaning that everything since 2016, it's more expensive. Not just built-in inflation, but the part of that inflation is because of Brexit. And the people, obviously, who sold Brexit would never suffer the consequences. Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg, all of these people, they'll never suffer, John Redwood, they'll never suffer the consequences of Brexit. Ordinary people will. And why are they still in their position? Why haven't they been fired? Why haven't they been kicked out of Parliament? Why haven't they been recalled? These people have been wrong about everything. Nigel Farage once again talking about how Brexit hasn't been delivered. We haven't got our Brexit because, there are people coming across the sea in dinghies, milking this issue for everything it's got. Carney dropped interest rates from 0.5% to 2.025% after the Brexit vote. Yes, Carney, well said, Stewie. Carney tried to undo some of the damage of Brexit. He realised this is going to be a disaster. I need to do something. Carney needs to come back. Is it possible for the governor of the Bank of England to be governor of Bank of England again? A former governor to be in the position once again, because this was somebody who knew what he was talking about. He knew people say, oh, well, he was a Ramona or whatever. He knew what he was doing. There's a reason why most economists are not Brexiteers, because Brexit is a disaster. There's no benefit from Brexit, no benefit to Brexit. Apart from European countries who are benefiting as a consequence of Brexit, but there are no benefits of Brexit. If they were, you would be hearing about them. 6 years and you've heard absolutely zero. The racists and bigots will say we're keeping foreigners out, although that's not working too well, is it? I've been asking for Brexiteers to come onto this channel and have a debate with me. Not even a debate, just have a chat with me. Because I'd love to know what the benefits of Brexit are. And I can't get anyone on. Jacob Rees-Mogg, of course he wouldn't come on. I'm too small fish for him. But if you know somebody who's a Brexiteer, it doesn't even have to be a YouTuber. It can be just somebody, in your family or a workmate or something like that. Please do. I'd be happy to have them on to have a chat. And it's not about trying to poke holes in their argument, just to try and understand, because I can't find any benefits. Nobody can seem to find any benefits. Farage's response is, there aren't any benefits because there isn't a real Brexit. Isn't Sir Ron Venti a Brexiteer? I'll try and get him on, but he's a bit camera shy. Hold on, Max, we could use more powerful vacuums. Could afford to use what's that, Adrian? See, we have more powerful vacuums, but we can't switch them on because it's too expensive. Oh my god, the Russians are finding Brexit benefits. That's true. Instead of asking them to come onto your channel, try and get on Question Time panel. Maybe I'll try and do something like that. I'm going to try and I'm going to come back to the UK probably next year. And I'm going to try and do something, at least in the audience or something, to ask some questions. Benefit of Brexit is a second independence referendum. That's probably it. Yes. Brexit definitely gave independence a shot in the arm. Anyway, let's move on. Some good news. If this is maybe some good news, it says here, rail strikes suspended. Strikes planned for coming week are suspended, says the RMT. 3 24-hour strikes by rail workers scheduled for the coming week have been called off. The RMT union has announced, saying it will now enter a period of intensive negotiations with Network Rail and rail operators. The news came as Royal Mail and the union CWU, the CWU union, agreed to a week of intensive talks in an attempt to resolve a pay and change dispute that has prompted postal workers to call to 48-hour strikes starting on the 24th and 30th of November. The Royal Mail spokesperson said Royal Mail and the CWU recognise that it is crucial to the future of the company and the long-term job security of its employees that we reach agreement to resolve the current pay and change disputes. There will now be an intensive period of negotiations on all aspects of pay and change, facilitated by ACRIS, from Monday the 7th of November to Tuesday the 15th of November. The RMT union revealed on Friday afternoon that three days of 24-hour industrial action by thousands of its members at Network Rail, mostly signalling staff, due to take place on Saturday the 5th, Monday the 7th and Wednesday the 9th of November on lines across the country will no longer go ahead. So that's some good news. So it means that there's progress probably being made. Max, make sure that you leave your hat at home. Katrick is still recovering from finding the track. So yes, killer. So for people who don't know, when I did visit London earlier in the year, it was in July, I think it was, I took my tricorn with me. And unfortunately, when I got to Gatwick, there was a delay and I had to sit around for a few hours, and eventually I lost my hat. Yes. Tears were shed. So there's also a report on this as well. I just want to show you the clip from...
We start with that breaking news then. And the RMT union has announced that it suspended a series of strikes that threatened to bring much of the rail network to a halt after receiving a new pay offer. So industrial action that was supposed to begin tomorrow and also take place on Monday and Wednesday has been called off, with union bosses saying they're entering intensive talks with employers as part of a dispute about pay and conditions. So the RMT's General Secretary, Mick Lynch, said that the threat of strike action and our strongly supported industrial campaign has made the rail employers see sense. He goes on to say, we have always wanted to secure a negotiated settlement, and that is what we will continue to push for in this next phase of intensive talks. He says our priority is our members, and we're working towards securing a deal on job security, a decent pay rise and good working conditions. Our reballot remains live, and if we have to take strike action during the next 6 months to secure a deal, we will.
Okay, so the strike action has been taken off the table for now, but it could come back in 6 months' time. A moment of silence. Try the tricorn. Ian Duncan Smith tried it and couldn't cope, Jackie. The Tory government in Ontario, when dealing with teachers asked for a new contract, wanted to legislate an act to prevent them from striking rather than negotiating, and now they are striking. Well, I didn't know the Tory there was bad over in Canada as well. Matt Green, Max. Yes, Matt Green will be on in just a jiffy. So we're almost at the end of the stream. There was another story, but I think we'll leave it for now. So I want to say thank you to everyone who came on tonight. Thanks so much for the super chats. Thanks so much. They're greatly appreciated. Thank you to everyone who sent a super chat. Thanks to everyone who smashed the like button, and thanks to everyone who was moderating tonight. Thanks so much for your dedicated work there. Before we finish, we always have our one for the road. Make sure that if you're a member of, if you're a patron, you have access to Discord. Anyone who doesn't, let me know. Do send me a message on Patreon. You have access to Discord. We'll have a chat on the post-stream chat about what we discussed tonight. But before we finish, we have our one for the road. I'm sure you'll enjoy this.
Yes, things are very bad economically. We're going to have to take some tough decisions. But look, we've had COVID, Ukraine, the disastrous mini-budget. I don't think this is a time for pointing fingers. But you accept that the mini-budget has made things much worse. It's a shame that the mini-budget happened, but look, it was like a pandemic or a meteor strike. There's nothing we could have done to prevent it. Apart from not electing Liz Truss. Look, this is all ancient history. It happened 6 weeks ago? 6 weeks or 6 years ago, doesn't matter. The point is it happened in the past. What we have to focus on now is how we can make things better now. So how can you make things better now? By getting to grips with the invasion. You mean helping Ukraine? No. Although, yes, vitally important, blah, blah, blah. No, what I'm talking about is the invasion on the south coast. Why? Why what? Why are you talking about that? You're a finance minister. You're here to talk about the economy. Well, you asked me how we can make things better for the economy. Oh, I thought you meant politically for my party. But look, we are spending millions of pounds on these so-called migrants staying in these so-called hotels. So, I think that's a bit of a problem for the economy, don't you? The mini budget caused billions of pounds worth of damage. Millions, billions. What's the difference? Do you really think your viewers care? Well, they might if they thought about it for a minute. Precisely. I mean, there's no chance of that. I'll just keep using the word illegal over and over again, despite never explaining what it actually means, and you'll never challenge me because you're worried about looking impartial. Even if these migrants do arrive here illegally, thank you, don't you agree that they still deserve to be treated humanely? Well, ideally, of course, but you have to remember that the poor people of this country are having a terrible time of it at the moment with the cost of living crisis. I mean, food bank usage has gone up terrifically. What's that got to do with migrants? Well, we can't be seen to be treating them better than we treat our own people, can we? You could always do more to help poorer people in this country too. Ha, good one. No, I think we'll stick to ensuring that they've got someone to look down on and be scared of at the same time. 2 birds, 1 stone. Thank you, Minister. Next up, as polls suggest that a large number of Trump-supporting Republicans will win in the midterms next week, which could give them control of the electoral process in 2024, we ask, as it comes to a close, what were your favourite moments from American democracy? Yes, things are...
Oh, it's getting bleak, isn't it, guys? So, once again, a wonderful video there from Matt Green. Do follow him on Twitter, and I'll see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel, but do check out the Sunday roast on this Sunday. Very interesting guests once again. Do check that out on Sunday morning. And as I said, if I don't see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. Have a great weekend, guys. Take care and see you soon. Good night.